You ever cram for a test thinking you've got it all locked in, only to have it all just vanish the next day? Well, today we're going to dive into this really cool allegory called the Atom Man. It perfectly explains why that happens, and it shows us a much better way to build knowledge that actually sticks.
So this really gets to the heart of it, right? When we think about learning in school or at work, what are we really trying to do? Are we just trying to collect the right answers? Or is it about getting good at asking the right questions? The story of Atom Man gives us a pretty fascinating way to think about this.
All right, so let's set the scene for our story. It all starts in this city called Examocoria, and as you can probably guess, this place runs entirely on answers. Our hero? Naturally, he's Atom Man.
In Examoria, this isn't just a saying, it's the law of physics. The entire society is built on this one idea, that being smart is just about remembering the right fact at the right moment. The schools there train citizens to repeat information perfectly for what they call the great evaluations. Sound a little familiar?
Now, Atom Man was great at this game, but he just had this nagging feeling that something was off. All this knowledge he was gathering felt flimsy. As soon as the test was over, the information would just, poof, evaporate. It was temporary, totally unstable, and when it came down to it, not very useful at all.
And that feeling, it pointed to a huge, fundamental flaw in the whole system. You see, inside Atom Man's mind, he had this mental reactor, but it was an unstable one. It was built for these short-term bursts of energy, not for generating real, sustainable power.
Okay, so check out how this short-term core works. It's a simple but really flawed cycle. You get some information, you pay just enough attention to cram it into your short-term memory, you spit it back out for the exam, and then what happens? Decay. The knowledge just fades away because it was never meant to last. It was designed for one job and then to be tossed aside.
And here's the real kicker. Sure, he could earn all the badges and degrees Examoria had to offer, but the moment he faced a real-world problem, something messy with uncertainty and noise, the whole system just fell apart. His pre-packaged answers didn't work. The city called it failure, but Atom Man knew it was really just a mismatch of systems.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. Atom Man, totally dissatisfied, wanders off into a new part of the city. And what he finds there? Well, it changes everything. He walks into this laboratory district, and it's like a different world. For the very first time, all those abstract symbols and equations he'd memorized weren't just floating concepts anymore. They were actually anchored to reality. He could see how they represented real, tangible things happening in the world, and his mental reactor, it started to stabilize.
And get this, look at the questions people were asking here. The whole focus shifted. It wasn't about, what's the answer? It was all about, why is this happening? Or how does this actually work? These people weren't just carriers of answers, they were problem solvers. They were driven by pure curiosity.
And this new way of thinking, it unlocked a totally different kind of mental engine for him. One built not for just storing things, but for generating new ideas.
An old researcher drops this incredible piece of wisdom on him. You gotta let this one sink in. Chasing answers is like chasing shadows. If you really want power, you need to understand the object, the model that's casting those shadows in the first place. This is the big aha moment.
And this shows you the new power cycle perfectly. It's not a straight line that just ends in decay. No, it's a loop that generates real insight. You start with a problem, you make some assumptions, you build a model to try and explain it, then you test it, you validate it. And every single time you go through that cycle, your mind doesn't just get more full, it actually gets stronger.
So, with this new engine humming away in his mind, Atom Man goes through a complete transformation. He can now see these two totally opposite systems of learning with absolute clarity.
This new engine starts building these incredible new powers. He gets signal vision, the ability to see the underlying patterns in the noise. He develops model construction, the power to translate reality into working models. But the most crucial ability, the real game changer, is failure absorption.
I mean, this is such a powerful way to reframe things. Back in Examoria, a wrong answer was the end. It was failure, plain and simple. But in this new system, a failure isn't a weakness, it's just data. It's a signal telling you, hey, your model is incomplete, time for an update. Failure literally becomes the fuel for getting smarter.
This slide just lays it all out, side by side. The old city, Examoria, it trains people to just carry answers. The new city, Arxivia, trains them to create solutions. One measures how well you can recall something, the other measures how well your ideas hold up in the real world. One produces degree holders, the other produces the researchers and engineers who actually build the future. They aren't enemies, but they operate on fundamentally different physics.
So, the big question is, what does this all mean for us? Adaman didn't go back and destroy the old system. He did something way harder. He rewired himself. And the cool part is, so can we.
And this is where the story becomes our own. How do we make that jump? How do we stop being citizens of Exarmria and become builders in Arxivia? How do we actually cultivate this builder's mindset in our own lives?
Okay, so here's the practical toolkit. For anything you're learning, try to build a model by asking these 5 questions. 1. What's the real thing happening here? 2. What assumptions am I making? 3. How can I build a simple model of it? 4. Where does my model break? And 5. How can I make it better? Every question adds a little more energy to your core, and the answers start to pop out naturally.
And really, that's the ultimate takeaway. This one line from Adaman's logbook just captures the two worlds perfectly. One is about passive storage. The other is about active creation. One is about having knowledge. The other is about making knowledge. So in the end, Adaman wasn't a student of exams anymore. He became a builder of thinking systems. His true power didn't come from what he could remember, but from his ability to understand reality, to build models of it, and to test those models against the real world.
And that leaves us with one final question for you. Think about your work, a hobby, or maybe just something about the world you want to understand a little better. What is the first model you're going to build?